Hey guys, this is Brian, and today I'm going to teach you how to play chess. Now, this presentation isn't about the complex strategies in the start of the game or the end of the game. This is simply the basics, and it's going to be split into multiple parts. And the first thing we're going to be learning about is this is the board. It is an 8x8 grid, so there are 64 squares. Now, the board has 32 light squares, which are these squares I'm highlighting in red, and the rest, which are dark squares. So 32 light squares and 32 dark squares. Now, the board has these letters and numbers here. So, files are vertical lines of squares that go from A to H. For example, this right here is called the C file because it says C right here and is a vertical line of squares. Now, these right here are called ranks. Ranks are columns of squares that are labeled 1 to 8. For example, this is the 7th rank because it says 7 and is a column of squares. At the start of the game, the board is set up like this. Now, pawns for white start on the 2nd rank, and pawns for black start on the 7th rank. And then on the 1st rank for white, these pieces are in this order, from A file to H file. Rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. This is also the same for black. So when you start a game, white makes the first move, then black makes a move, then white makes a move, then black makes a move, then white makes a move, and this is so on until the end of the game. These pieces here are called pawns. Now pawns move forward, and pawns for white start on the 2nd row, and pawns for black start on the 7th row. Now if a pawn is on the starting row, it can choose to either move 2 squares forward or 1 square forward. So white moves their pawn from its starting row. Now, once a pawn moves from its starting row, it can only move 1 square forward like this. And pawns capture pieces 1 square diagonally, like this, for example. This piece here is called the knight. Now, knights move 2 squares forward, and then 1 square left or right from that. Now, this makes the knight's movement resemble an L shape. Oops. Like that. And one unique thing about knights is that knights can actually jump over other pieces, whether they're friendly pieces or enemy pieces. It's like the piece doesn't even exist. And how knights capture pieces? Knights capture pieces on squares that they can move to. For example, this knight can capture this black enemy pawn like this. This thing here is called the bishop. Now the bishop moves diagonally in any number of squares. Now here's an example of a bishop move. And bishops capture pieces they first run into. This piece right here is called the rook. Now the rook moves in straight lines in any number of squares. Here's a rook move. And rooks capture pieces they can first run into, like this, for example. This piece here is called the queen. Now the queen is the most powerful piece because it moves like a rook and a bishop combined. Here's a queen move. And queens capture pieces they first run into, like that. This piece right here is the king, and kings move 1 square in any direction. But here there's a catch. Kings cannot move to squares that are already controlled by enemy pieces. For example, the king cannot move here because this knight is controlling that square and the king would be captured. So the king can move to 5 different squares. We'll pick this one. And kings can capture pieces on squares that they can move to, but they cannot capture pieces that are already defended. For example, this king cannot capture this pawn because the knight is protecting it. Remember when I said the king was the most important piece? Well, here's an example on why it's the most important piece. This part will explain 2 important things, check and checkmate. Now, check is when an opponent piece is attacking the king. Now, there are 3 ways to get out of check. The first way is to simply move your king. And now, here, you're completely out of the check. Another way is to block the check. And you can capture the piece that gives check. Now, what is checkmate? Now, checkmate is when the king is being attacked and the king has nowhere to go. The check cannot be blocked, the piece cannot be captured, and therefore who gets checkmated loses a game. Here, white loses a game because it's checkmate. The king cannot go to these 3 squares because this rook is controlling those 3 squares. And this rook controls this square, it also controls this square, and is attacking the king, so it's checkmate and white loses the game. Now I'm going to show you an example game using some of the stuff we learned. So white goes first, white moves their pawn, then black copies white's move, and then white brings their knight out. It's now attacking this pawn. Black also brings their knight out, but also at the same time defends his pawn. White then brings the bishop out. Then black brings their knight out. Now white decides to play an aggressive move, knight to g5, attacking this pawn twice, but it only has 1 defender, so black has to defend that. Black chooses to block the attack, and then we have a trade of pieces. Now white aggressively sacrifices their knight, and the knight is attacking the queen and the rook. Black only has 1 good choice, is to take the knight. Now white brings the queen out, it is attacking the king and the knight at the same time. The king tries to hide, but now white takes the knight with check. The king cannot go anywhere, so the only good move is to take the queen, and after the bishop takes, the king still can't go anywhere. The bishop has to block, and now white takes the bishop, and it is checkmate because the king is being attacked. The bishop cannot be captured, and the king can't go here because the bishop is controlling this square. So in this game, black loses with checkmate. Thank you for watching my presentation on how to play chess. I hope you learned something new and enjoyed the presentation, and have a great rest of your day.